I'd like to ask you a question, Claire.
Okay.
If a menacing creature's name sounds like it could be a French comfort dish, could it really be that menacing?
I suppose not.
Let's find out. I'm Vince.
And I'm Claire.
And this is
Friends of Legend!
Welcome to Friends of Legend, a podcast where we take the mythical and misunderstood of this world, try to bring it close to our hearts.
You can think of us as Newt Scamander from Fantastic Beasts, but with a podcast.
And a little more personable. So this week, we are going to be talking about a creature that I've always been curious about, but never really got to get experience with. The Tarasque. And have you ever heard of the Tarasque, Claire?
I hadn't until you told me that we were doing this episode.
So it's something that a lot of people who are familiar with Dungeons & Dragons, especially older Dungeons & Dragons, would know the name of. And they probably have a very concrete picture in their mind of what the Tarasque is, and they're probably wondering, why are you doing an episode on this? How are you going to be friends with that? And to do an episode on the Tarasque, it's almost like doing an episode on two different creatures, because there is the modern interpretation that is heavily associated with Dungeons & Dragons, and then there's the original one. So first I'd like to talk about the things that the two have in common. It's a very short list. One, it's a very big creature, usually about 50 feet or 16 meters in height, depending on what kind of measurement you use. Two, it's known to hibernate for many, many years.
Ooh.
And that's about all the two have in common. So I think first I'd like to talk about the modern interpretation, since that's going to be the one that people resonate with the most. A Tarasque is a very large reptilian sort of creature. Imagine being a kid and having a bunch of dinosaur figurines, all kinds of dinosaurs, and you dump your dinosaur figurine collection on the floor and you decide, I can do better than this. And you take like the back of an ankylosaur, the horns of a triceratops, the mouth of a tyrannosaur, and then like two arms from a velociraptor, but like the velociraptors from Jurassic Park, not the actual chicken-sized velociraptors.
That's right.
And you just kind of cobble them all together. That's what a Tarasque is.
Oh.
It's large, it's got a big, hard, shelled back, covered in horns, big old mouth. It's bipedal, and it has large arms tipped with very sharp claws. And this creature gets its sort of modern reboot first in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, which is from the early 80s. He was added as basically a boss monster. Very strong and very tough. It's got a lot of constitution. And its armor is impervious not only to physical attacks, but can reflect magic like a mirror. It's known for not being intelligent. Essentially, it doesn't have any sentience.
Really? Okay.
It sleeps under the ground for decades or centuries or even millennia.
How does it fit under the ground?
It's got those big old digging arms.
The diggers. Okay. Yeah.
It digs way underground, or it's put there by some kind of supernatural force. Sometimes it's pictured as like the chaos engine of the gods.
Oh my.
And it wakes up either if it's hungry or if some misguided person finds some sort of spell to awaken it. And it goes and it tears through the countryside until it gets tired again and digs back underground and sleeps.
What a life.
What a life indeed.
So where do they live besides underground? In the world, where do they live?
So in the modern interpretation, the Tarasque, it'll live anywhere where it's sort of like a valley or a hill, countryside where it can dig deep under the ground and then emerge whenever it wants. It'll call anywhere home that it can rest undisturbed, and then it'll wake up, move around, eat and destroy, and then go back to sleep. It's one of those things that can't be reasoned with, can't be lied to, can't be bribed. You just either try to face it or you try to stay out of its way, and neither really guarantees your safety. It's something where when a dungeon master is pretty much done with their campaign and they want to scrap it and start something else, they'll throw a Tarasque in so that it can wipe out the entire party. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, that's a little bit dramatic, but I'm sure that there have been plenty of times where dungeon masters have said, yeah, I'm done with this one. It's Tarasque time.
Okay, so they are aggressive.
They are very aggressive. They are essentially mindless destroyers in the modern depiction, and they've gone on to inspire other sort of terrible, aggressive, monstrous reptiles such as the Death Claws of the Fallout series, or the extremely hard-to-kill lizard of the SCP universe.
And what is SCP again?
It's sort of an internet fiction about a group that seeks to locate and contain anomalous objects or beings, and this being one of them is one that they simply can't contain because it is unkillable and inimical to everything living. So hearing all of this, you're probably thinking, well, why are you doing an episode on this? It doesn't seem possible to befriend something like this.
It sounds pretty intense.
And you're not wrong. This interpretation of the Tarasque is one that would you'd just stamp not a friend yet, and you'd move on, and that would be the end of it. But what if that wasn't the whole story?
We're trying to uncover the big picture of all of our magical friends in the world, you know? I'm sure this is another case of people looking on the outside and not wanting to dig any deeper, but we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes.
It's true. Sort of modern culture has forgotten a lot of the meat of the story of the Tarasque, the original story. And that's what we're going to go into now.
Excellent.
So the Tarasque was originally discovered by humans in medieval France.
When you said that they live in countrysides, I immediately thought of France.
Yep. Specifically, it was first found in Provence, which, of course, we both love Provence because
of lavender.
Lavender. The soothing smell of lavender, which is a wonderful idyllic picture to paint in comparison to the Tarasque. Now, the original Tarasque looked almost nothing like the description of Tarasques as we know them today. It was more of a sort of chimera. It had the head of a lion, the back shell of a tortoise, and a scorpion's tail, the body of an ox, and then 6 stubby bear-like legs.
Oh.
And if you haven't before, go ahead and look up a picture on Google of French Tarasque. That's spelled Tarasque. And another point, in fact, is that the modern Tarasque is spelled with 2 R's, so it's even more distinguished from the original. So this Tarasque, it would sleep underneath the Rhone River and only occasionally awaken when boats passed over it so that it could take a swipe with its stubby little bear paws and capsize the boats.
Oh no.
It was known to eat people, but it especially liked eating human children, which is unfortunate.
Sounds like Baba Yaga.
Yeah, there's definitely an obsession, I'd say, with human children when it comes to some of these creatures of Europe.
I wonder why. Maybe they're just easy prey?
That would make sense to me. Either that or it's just something easy to say when your kid asks you, why do I have to do this? It's like, eat your greens or the Tarasque's gonna get you. We'll get into this a little more, but even if that is the case, it doesn't necessarily mean that it can't change its ways.
That's true. And maybe we can help it to learn about other cuisines that are out there.
Definitely. I feel like it wouldn't be hard to introduce the Tarasque to some better food if it's already located in beautiful southern France.
So at what point did humans start thinking that the Tarasque looked more like a dinosaur? Or did they evolve?
It was when Dungeons & Dragons picked up the creature as something that they could include in the game. They were looking to expand the roster of beings that you could run into, and they had always been picking creatures from different parts of mythology, like, the Hydra, Griffin, dragons, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to go for something a little more obscure, but I think maybe it was a little hard to engage people with this image of a lion, turtle, ox, bear, scorpion.
Right.
And so they wanted to give it more of a cohesive sort of look, and it became a lot more dinosaurian, and as a result they gave it a lot more of a, lizard brain, lizard attitude, sort of. I don't want to say a Godzilla aspect, because even Godzilla has more intelligence and sympathy than what they gave the Tarasque. But that sort of single-minded destructiveness.
Well, I'm excited to find out the truth when we actually meet one and see what it really looks like. I'm sure that a lot of humans that have come across the Tarasque have not lived to tell the tale of what they saw.
It's true. The Tarasque, even in the original story, was definitely a creature of hunger. It would attack any human on sight, and it became a very big problem for the town of Nerluc near the Rhone River, where this creature would be eating their children as they frolic through the lavender fields.
Oh no.
And so eventually the king of the area sent some soldiers out to try to slay the beast, and they were completely ineffective. Their swords, their spears, their bows and arrows, they just bounced right off the thing, and it served to only make it angrier. And it's about this time that the Catholic Saint Martha comes into the picture. And this is really where we get our story of the Tarasque from her trip to France. Another kind of interesting point, one thing that I really liked, Saint Martha is the saint of waitresses, waiters, bartenders,
cool.
The hospitality industry, which is something close to my heart.
Yes, we are both former bartenders, craft beer enthusiasts. Mm-hmm. Well, still are.
Yeah, still the last one, not the first one. So she comes in and she hears tale of this terrible beast that's ravaging the French countryside. And she says, well, swords and spears didn't do the trick. Maybe the good old book will do it.
Ah.
So she goes and she tracks down the lair of the Tarasque. And the Tarasque, which in this story is described as something that can talk and understand human language, it is threatening and it looks like it's going to eat her. But she approaches it and she says some hymns and prayers, some gentle words, and she calms the beast. And she eventually says, you don't have to destroy, you don't have to eat people. There's a better way, a kinder way that you can live. If you will come with me, I'll show you. I'll introduce you to the people of this town, and we can live in harmony. And she eventually gets the Tarasque to follow her. She essentially tames it with her presence and her words. Mm-hmm. And it follows her willingly to the town of Nerluc. And as soon as they cross into the town gates, the villagers of the area, they see the creature and they think, this hideous beast ate our children. We're going to grab our torches and pitchforks, and we're going to attack this thing now that it's been drawn into our home.
It sounds a lot to me like Beauty and the Beast, where the beast, overcomes his aggression, and the villagers just don't want to give him a chance because he had done so much harm. It
is very, very similar. There's even some thought that the story of Beauty and the Beast was inspired by the story of the Tarasque, because the story of the Tarasque is very old. Like I said, it's medieval. And, they're both set in France.
Uh-huh.
And Saint Martha is trying to tell these townspeople, no, don't attack it, it's our friend now. And the Tarasque, who isn't really being affected by these weapons, is looking at all the pain and the suffering that it has caused these villagers by eating their loved ones. And it eventually passes away, not of violence, but of shame.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is. a very, very sad story to see this creature that is looked upon as sort of a furious, unlovable, irredeemable creature by the townspeople, actually being something that just didn't know any other way until someone decided to treat it like an equal.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting a little weepy-eyed.
It tugs at the heartstrings, and eventually Saint Martha, after the beast was carried out of the town, she lays that trademark Catholic guilt upon the townspeople. And they all convert to Christianity, like all of these stories of saints go, but then they changed their town name from Nerluc to Tarasque.
Oh, wow!
And the town of Tarasque is a real town. It exists today. They have festivals for the Tarasque, which is where you're going to see a lot of those Google images of the Tarasque come from. A lot of sort of floats and effigies and statues and things like that, because it's sort of a historical memory of a time when humans were the beastly ones, not the beast itself.
And hopefully one day a Tarasque will come back and visit the village, and the humans can offer friendship.
Hopefully we've learned the errors of our ways. The sad thing is, though, it's not easy to say whether there was ever more than one Tarasque. It's depicted that same way in modern interpretations as well.
Mm-hmm.
Usually there's just one, the only one of its kind. While being immortal, it's not invulnerable. And once it's gone, its like is usually not seen again. That being said, they live deep underground and they hibernate for hundreds of years. So we can cross our fingers and hope that we can make up for the transgressions of humanity's past.
Mm-hmm. Is there any sort of tell to determine if this big mound that you might stumble upon is a Tarasque nest?
You could try digging. There's no real talk of like earthquakes or sounds coming from an area where a Tarasque is. It's easier to find the Tarasque if it's sleeping at the bottom of a river, because it will wake up whenever something passes over it.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as Tarasques underground, they don't give any tells until they wake up. And of course, with a lot of pretty much anyone who wakes up, the first thing on its mind is getting something to eat.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
So if you do see a Tarasque emerging from the ground, try to have some good food on hand. Maybe make like a
loaf of bread.
A loaf of bread. I'd say maybe something a little less vegetarian. I was thinking like, I don't know, braised beef. That seems like something they'd enjoy.
Okay, so yeah, just kind of carry around some meaty snacks on you.
Definitely. Some jerky. I'm sure it would like that. Just sort of placate it, offer it something that will, at the very least, distract it from eating you. And then in that time while it's eating, say some gentle words. My, what a lovely mane you have. That's quite a tail you got there. Did you polish your shell today?
Aww.
That sort of thing.
Yes. So what are some other things that we can do to be friends with it and show them that we mean no harm?
I think attempting the same thing that St. Martha was doing, taking it to a place where it can see other people react positively towards them, even though it didn't work out for St. Martha,
right,
would be a good thing. So if you are going to go out looking for a Tarasque, maybe let your friends know, hey, I'm going to be bringing a new friend in. Try to keep an open mind.
Yeah, be cool, guys.
Be cool. Think of some nice things to say. Don't express any fear, and just try to open your heart. And then, as soon as you've gained the trust of the Tarasque, take it to your friends and have them interact with it as well. Help it build confidence not only in itself, but in its ability to have social interactions with humans. Because from this story, it's clear that the Tarasque wanted to have friends. It wanted to be accepted and loved. It didn't necessarily want to be destructive or evil. It just didn't know anything better. And if we can reward it for the desire to be friendly, then I don't see why it couldn't be just a big old shelled puppy dog.
Absolutely.
With a scorpion tail. So I think we're getting on to the rating part. For those of you who haven't listened before, after we've gone over the story of the creature and we've talked about all the ways that you can befriend it and all the things that it likes and dislikes, we give it a rating to kind of give you a better idea of what you can expect if you want to go try to make friends with it. And the 4 tiers we have are friend-shaped, which is something that you would essentially instantly become friends with. It's gentle, it's lovable, it wants to interact with people, that sort of thing.
And then the next one we have is Cheeky Friend, and that is a creature that is not necessarily aggressive, but maybe a little mischievous, and you might want to approach with caution or...
Not necessarily caution, but just an understanding that it's going to get up to some hijinks once you invite it into your life.
Yeah, a little impish. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason that word exists, and we'll go into our imp episode another time.
Definitely. The next one up from there is Spicy Friend. This one is more difficult to become friends with. You run the risk of injury or death, though not guaranteed. And maintaining that friendship can also be difficult because you might be battling the nature of the creature itself, but not impossible.
And lastly, we have Not a Friend Yet. And that's going to be a creature that more than likely will kill you or destroy your way of life, and we need to approach with extreme caution, but they are still redeemable, and we're gonna work with them.
Yeah. It's one of those things where there haven't been any recorded instances of humans becoming friends with one of them, but that hasn't ruled them out completely yet. So don't give up. That's what this podcast is all about. Mm-hmm. So I'd say my rating for the Tarasque is going to be Spicy Friend. You're going to have an uphill battle befriending it because it is going to be emerging from the ground or the river, hungry and not necessarily keen on social graces. And you might look like a tasty snack to it, but as soon as you can sway it, I'd say that it's going to be true to you. You're probably not going to have a lot to worry about as long as you don't go taking it to a place of closed-minded people.
I agree. I would also rate this a Spicy Friend. It's someone who needs a lot of patience and gentle touches, and you just need to prepare yourself in your social circles for what they might expect.
Definitely ask for permission before PABs.
Yes. Yeah. You don't want to go in for a nice soft-looking spike and get a chomp on the hand. We have a cat that we know that lesson all too well.
Oh yes, he's our little Tarasque. But that's what we have on Tarasques today. I'd like to thank you all so much for listening to our podcast, getting to know the Tarasque a little better, and maybe getting a whole new outlook on it after perhaps already being exposed to sort of the Dungeons and Dragons picture of it.
I know I learned so much, and a lot of what this podcast is good for is awareness, and I'm sure if our listeners had no idea what they were coming across, if they were floating down a river and saw this giant spiked, what they thought of as a beast, they would be afraid and uneducated and just probably get gobbled right up. But now you know what to do to prevent that and to live in harmony with the Tarasque. And that is invaluable.
Absolutely. It's another friend in our roster.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, if you liked what you listened to, feel free to subscribe to us and rate us on whatever podcast system you use. We love to hear when you share us with friends, and we consider ourselves a family-friendly podcast. So if you want to educate some youngsters on perhaps a softer side of the mythical world, we'd love to be that initial foray.
Absolutely. And we also have a Facebook page that you can follow us on. It's facebook.com/Friends of Legend. We would love to have you as part of our community. And we also have a new Twitter page that's @Friends of Legend. And why don't you throw us some suggestions for other magical creatures that we can talk about? Or if you have questions or more information that you know of that want to share with us, we'd be happy to broadcast all that.
We love it when people send us some things that we might have skipped over in our efforts to educate the world about these lovely little critters.
Oh yeah. Oh, and we have an email address. So if you are not on Twitter or Facebook, contact us at friendsoflegend@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
And keep an eye out for our new episodes. They're up every Saturday.
Every Saturday, wherever you find podcasts.
And thanks so much, y'all. And remember, when it comes to Friends of Legend, charm them.
Do not harm them.